What is up, everybody? How we doing this morning? Happy Thursday. Big day today. Game day. Game day. SU Pitt tonight. ESPN. Prime time. Let's go Cuse. Big time. Let's go Cuse. Coming off a bye week. Last time they came off a bye week against Stanford, they lost. So, and they didn't look sharp. Very, very, very curious to see how Coach Brown has the guys ready this week. All right, so I'm not in my boat. I'm not on the water. The Starcraft 188 DC Pro is parked at my dock. Let's talk about some non-fishing stuff. I got a few things to talk about. One, if you're in the greater Brewerton Central Square area, a huge shout out to the paving crew and all the crew from Barrett. They have made our town look beautiful. It's only a couple blocks, and I hope that we have funding secured to get the rest of this done in the near future. And the new bridge on Route 11 over the river will be. Gotta watch these FedEx guys, boy. We'll be starting soon. You know, it's going to take a couple years, but our town looks gorgeous. The new sidewalks with the inlaid pavers and the crosswalks and the parking spots in downtown. It's so nice. It looks so fantastic. Again, my hope is, and this, if any of our elected public officials are out there listening, secretly make the rest of it happen. That kind of sidewalk system should be all the way down to Oneida Shores, down Bartell Road, all through our town. And I'd love to see it on the North Shore too, on the north side. I'd love to see something happen with sidewalks and dressing up that area on Route 11, just north of the river in Oswego County. I don't think there's any greater way to reinvigorate your community than with a public works project that brings in beauty and access to your town. We all want to live in someplace nice, and we all pay an exorbitant amount of taxes to live in this state, period. I would like to see more of that money go towards these kind of public works projects that are going to beautify and reinvigorate our communities. And those of us that live here on the West End, whether it be Brewerton, Central Square, Cicero, there are so many opportunities for our elected officials to really show its constituents that we're doing things for you. And again, huge shout out. I think downtown Brewerton looks spectacular. I love it. I love it. I love it. Moving on. Man, if you own a business on Route 49 and you've been affected now for a year with that little tiny bridge on 49 between Central Square and West Monroe, and the detour that it's causing, and the people that live on the road of that detour, it's taken a lot of toll on that road. It's a tight fit. There's a lot of traffic. It's State Route 49 that's being diverted to a little secondary road. It's not even a county road. So I hope that project gets addressed sooner than later. I mean, I'm sure it's going to be, but if I was a business owner out there, I'd be screaming bloody murder. I know Joe has moved from Constantia out to 49. And they must be dying down there, and if you're so inclined, go support them, because I'm sure they could use it. So that's my public works things that I've had on my mind a couple days. Two, very unexpectedly and wonderfully, my good friend Marty, that I do a lot of work with, called me yesterday and said, hey, a friend of mine offered me a couple tickets to go see Duran Duran last night at Turning Stone. He goes, but we can't use them. Would you and your wife be interested? And And I said, yeah, absolutely. We love going to see live music. We're both children of the 80s. And Duran Duran was a huge, I don't know that I was a big Duran Duran fan in those days, but you growing up in the 80s, and in those days we all listened to the radio. That's really all we had. There was no Spotify or Sirius or streaming and all that stuff. You listened to the radio, and boy, if you listened to any radio in Central New York in the 80s, you heard Duran Duran. So you know all the songs. But I was able to observe a very interesting, what I thought was interesting, sociological phenomenon. And so we get into the show. I had no idea. I mean, I've been to the casino a few times, but I don't think I've ever really walked around it like we did last night, because first we walked around trying to find a place to eat, and half their food venues for a Wednesday night were closed, which seems odd that you would have an event like a concert of that size on a night that your food venues are closed. I thought that was strange, but that's not my point. It's such a massive complex down there. Had no idea. We get up in there, no problem. It's beautiful. The event center was very nice. Our seats were incredible. I don't think there's a bad seat in that place. It's a smaller version kind of the Syracuse War Memorial. There's no bad seats in there. Acoustically, the sound was good. It was actually better than good. It was fantastic. And the band sounded incredible. Simon LeBond, their lead singer, sounds just like he did in the 80s. I mean, amazingly so. But they come in with a few songs everybody knows, everybody's dancing, and it was awesome, and I'm in my early 50s. I graduated in 1989, so I'm as much a child of the 80s as anybody, and it was nice to see all of those. We saw a lot of people dressed up like it was still the 80s. It was awesome. A lot of fun. It put a smile on Courtney and I's face all evening. Just people watching. The band sounded great. So the lead singer, they're 2 songs in. We just got in and sat down. He said, something, and thank you for joining us tonight. And he said that his birthday was in a couple days. So he's got a late October birthday. I don't know if he's a big Halloween guy or what, but he said, bear with us tonight, and we'd like you to be very open-minded. We're going to play some stuff that I don't know if it was stuff they'd already recorded previously, if it was released, if it was something new they were working on, but nobody knew the songs. And, you go from one of their regular hits that the whole crowd was singing along to, and then you go to a song that they didn't know, and it was quiet. And I watched, and again, I don't know if they were trying to do something, avant-garde. They had a real cool video montage behind it, but it had that very Halloween feel to these. I'd say there were 6 songs, maybe 8 songs. And what was interesting from the sociological perspective was, and my wife discussed it with me after the fact as we were driving home last night, so who would go to see a band like that? She surmised that it was they're real hardcore fans that have been fans all along, and they were up to date on all of their new projects and modern stuff, and that they were really a hardcore fan. And then I surmised that I thought that the people that went to that Duran Duran concert, because I don't know anything about the band since the 80s. I don't even know the band in the 80s necessarily. Like, I couldn't tell you the name of any of their albums, but we all know their songs. So I surmised that people that go are going because of the nostalgia of it. like I just said, to feel like a kid of the 80s again, or the 60s if you were going to see an older band, or whatever. But I thought it was more nostalgia, where people just wanted to hear the greatest hits, and kind of that, all right, dance monkey, get up there and sing and dance for me and entertain me with all of the stuff that I know that you do. And I watched the interaction of the band, and especially the lead singer. The rest of the band didn't really interact with the crowd, but the lead singer really did. And you could kind of see, I thought I could see him looking around, trying to gauge the audience's reaction. And from their point of the artist, it's got to be painfully, sometimes mind-numbingly the same, like a scene from Groundhog's Day, where you do the same thing over and over every day, and people only want one thing from you, and they want just that thing that they know, and they want you to keep doing it over and over because it makes them happy or feel good or do whatever. But the person doing it may not necessarily feel that way. And I thought it was fascinating, and I'll tie it into fishing a little bit, but I thought it was interesting that here was the band later in their career. I don't know what this was, or what meaning, or if it was just something off the cuff. I mean, all of the songs that they performed that nobody knew were extremely well done. I mean, they'd obviously been rehearsed to the nth degree. But for them, let's say it was a one-off thing that they wanted to try and do something a little different and play a different song than the 15 or 20 that they would, of their hits, the most popular ones that people would know. And so for them creatively, I watched what I thought was them trying to give something new and different while still being Duran Duran to their customer, to their fans. And I don't know how it was received. I mean, I didn't hear anybody, there were no boos or anything like that. But a lot of times the consumer wants the producer to be the same thing all the time, every day, no matter what. And sometimes the producer strives just for that. They want to provide that same quality and excellence every single time without deviating from what's made them successful. And I see both sides of that. I can see the producer wanting to stretch their creative legs and stir up their creative juices a little bit. And I can also see the consumer saying, we don't really want that. We want this that you used to do. So I can see that back and forth. Now, in some ways, I can also see that in my own life, and what I do here with content creation is a lot of times, and I mentioned this before I kind of changed formats to Matt's morning show. I had a gentleman, very nice. I'm not saying anything cross in any way. He made a comment a couple weeks ago because in the middle of the fishing report, I started talking about the Yankees game, for instance. I just talked about the SU game. Those are things that I think of and that I want to share with you, my friends, my viewers, my followers. It's just what's in me. It's in essence, whether I'm fishing or whether I'm talking about sports or politics or anything else, I guess it comes down to, if you like me and my content, I don't know that it would necessarily matter what I was talking about with you, that you would still be interested in it. And so that the adage, and I came up with this line years ago when I was writing my book, and it was, nothing is ever any one thing all the time. A hammer is used to build amazing things with, But boy, in the wrong hands, you could turn that hammer around and crack somebody upside the head and turn their lights out. So it's a building tool, and it could be a destruction tool in the same moment. It's still a hammer, but it has different uses. And it was so interesting watching that last night and seeing what looked like people trying to put forth something new. And again, I'm not saying it was received negatively. It was just different. You can't sing along to something you don't know. And that was really the difference in all of it. And I just keyed into that. Sorry about that. I had a phone call come in I had to take. So it cut the video short. But anyways, it was just interesting to be there last night. It was a great show. They really, like I say, they sounded great. And it was interesting to see the inner workings of, listen, those guys were at the height of popularity during their time. Played the biggest venues, the biggest stages, the biggest crowds. I mean, they were A-list musicians through the 80s and I don't know, maybe in the 90s, I'm not sure. And it was interesting to see them, what I thought was kind of spread their wings and go into something different or more. And I really, ultimately, that had to take a lot of guts and courage and self-confidence. Literally in the confidence in yourself to be able to pull something like that off. Kudos. It was a great time. And like I say, it made me think of my own situation and everybody else's out there who does something, especially in the public, whether it's a business, whether it's a service, whether it's content creation, doesn't matter, I don't think. We're constantly trying to gauge what our customer base and what the general population as a whole and what the consumer base wants. And it's fascinating. Had I known how much sociology fascinated me when I was younger, I could possibly be in a much different position in my life. The questions and the unanswerable questions have always fascinated me, much to the same respect of why I'm a fisherman. The non-stop, continuous evolution of our sport, of our own techniques and skill, the non-stop puzzle that you're always putting together with factors you can control and factors you can't control. I didn't go fishing this morning. I don't remember if I started off by saying that. We got home late, and I woke up this morning. I don't get up with an alarm clock. I just tell myself when I go to bed what time I want to get up, and my internal mental alarm clock usually wakes me on time. And it's usually somewhere in the 5 to 5:30 time frame. This morning, my eyes opened up, and it was 6:45. And so immediately, I knew that I didn't have time to get out there and fish for an hour because I had to be done by 8 anyway so I could get to work. So I didn't go fishing this morning. I might be able to get out this afternoon, this evening, before the SU game comes on. But listen, I'm getting off my point. The point is that daily, never-ending challenge every time you go on the water to put all those pieces together. And it's funny, and I love you guys and girls so much because, like yesterday, a bunch of the comments were people offering me information on where to go and how they were doing and where they were catching fish. And I really made me smile. It was wonderful, and thank you, and your willingness to share. It's okay. It's okay. Whether you catch fish or don't catch fish, you're still learning. You're still putting that puzzle together. And I put the puzzle together every day, whether I get them or not. And Monday through Friday, especially when I'm limited time, and I'm looking forward to when the clocks go back, because then I'll have an extra hour. I'll have 2 hours to fish in the morning instead of 1. And that doubles your chance of finding him and being on time and all that fun stuff. But I love and appreciate all of you, and this morning again, today's morning show isn't the norm because things happen, and it is what it is. And so as I'm turning into work right now to finish up this job, I'm working on the lake out in Cleveland. A beautiful spot. Oh, absolutely gorgeous. Covered in oak trees, which we don't have a lot of up here, so it must be good sandy bottom. Covered in big oak trees and right on the water. It really is a beautiful spot. So I'll end this Matt's morning show with this, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Tomorrow morning, I'm sure, from the lake, and we can be celebrating together a big SU win over our 3rd ranked opponent, 2nd on the road of the year, and we can go from there. All right, everybody, have a great day. Thank you so much for joining me on Matt's morning show. Keep your tip up.